We got some nicks and bumps and bruises, I'm sure, just like everybody. Honestly, a lot of things are going on right now. I'll have a pretty good idea on Wednesday for you guys. See how that kind of goes. As it relates to the game, talked to the team today. A lot of things that we can learn from. Comes down to just some execution issues throughout 60 minutes, and to get out of the mud, we gotta do a better job of that. But there was a lot of good things on the tape that we pointed out, and there's some things that we all got to get cleaned up. So I thought the meetings were good, though. They were into it, which was good to see. And then we come back on Wednesday ready to battle Green Bay. What do we got?
What were the good things you liked?
Yeah, I thought our mode of play was on display. I thought we played extremely hard. There was some really good violence on the tape. Some things that, we've been working on, I think showed up, came to fruition, which was good to see. A number of guys took jumps with technique things that they've been working on that executed at a pretty good level, but ultimately fell a little short.
When you lost the games the way you have lost the past 4 weeks, how do you avoid sounding repetitive, or is repetitive a good thing?
I mean, the process of how we, come in here on Mondays and look at it with a critical eye and try to get better, that stays the same. No, I don't feel like we get repetitive. I don't want to say it's the same old story, but that's, when you're losing, a lot of those same things is the reasons why, So I'm always going to tell them the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But they do a good job of learning from it and moving on.
You talked about the importance of being adaptable and stepping up when your number is called. How would you evaluate the team's depth and adaptability so far?
Yeah, just speaking from last game, offensively really well. That was a lot. You have however many plays that we got up in a personnel grouping. You're out of that before we even take a snap. Marv obviously goes down, and he plays a lot of different spots. So to move those guys around like that, you're down to 2 tight ends with Travis going out. So I thought the guys actually really did a good job, handled it the right way. That shows me they're on the details. You got to, but that happens in a game. We talk about roles a lot of different ways. Roles can change. In game is probably the most challenging one, and our guys, I thought, stepped up to the plate and did a good job.
Speaking of stepping up, because I was in here earlier talking about the patience of maybe some of those receivers waiting for more opportunities and how sometimes that's how it's got to be. Just how did you view the non-Marv wide receivers, because it felt like they stepped up pretty well?
Yeah, I thought they played well. They did. I mean, Marv, Mike, Dortch, Higgins is another one. I know he's a tight end, but obviously Trey, they obviously had a plan to take away Trey, and he still had a good game. I thought the backs all contributed. I thought we did a good job.
What did you like from Jacoby? It seemed like the ball went down the field more.
Yeah, a little bit of play type, how Drew called it a little bit of what they were doing, But I thought he showed really good poise, really good command, made a couple plays with his legs, sat in there and threw the ball to the open guy. Takes all 11 to do that. So there was some really good execution, all 11, some of those plays that showed up.
You guys leaned a lot on play action. What impact did you see that having on the Colts defense?
If I think there's, depending how what calls they're in, sometimes there's guys open on the 3rd and 2nd level, and then sometimes they take it away and you can check the ball down and get some positive yardage, marries up with the run game, I thought we were pretty efficient in the run game. We haven't generated that explosive that we've kind of been looking for, but I thought we did a couple good things in the run game. So it's just the marrying of that.
Confidence for a young player is obviously very important. With Will Hernandez sliding into that starting role, how do you make sure that it doesn't derail the confidence of a guy like Isaiah Adams?
He'll prepare and practice and do everything that he needs to do to get ready to play. You know what I mean? I don't don't question that at all. Like we said, roles change. He's got to be ready to go.
Because of his versatility on the offensive line, considering he can play on the left side and the right side, Isaiah, has there been consideration about potentially moving him around, or is that something he already does during practices?
Yeah, we saw 2 games ago he went and played left. Started at left. So we, basically besides the quarterbacks, almost everybody on our team has to be cross-trained in some sort of capacity. So you just gotta do a good job with that, just for reasons that we've talked about. Roles change quick, throughout the week on game day, and you got to be ready to put on that hat and execute.
Coach, how's the team handling the 2-4 record? How tough is that?
It's probably as good as you can. They're not happy, Craig. They're not happy. You know what I mean? We feel like we're right there, but to get in the win column, we got to do a little bit more. But I am proud of them. The response, for the last couple games here and how those have went, going on the road to play a good team. I thought our response was the right response. There's no pointing blame. There's no finger pointing. Guys have good energy. They got good enthusiasm. They're continuing to play hard. We just got to get it turned.
That said, Coach, as a follow-up, you've lost 4 games, but I think a total of 9 points. How tough is that just to be so close right there?
Yeah, a loss is a loss. That's a good question, Craig. Something you don't, you see a win and a loss, but how you lose too might impact us. But like I said, I trust the leadership in that locker room. The coaches are the same way as them. We're all in it together, man. You know what I mean? And there's still a lot of ball to be played, and they know that. And we're gonna be pros about it and do a good job to try to get a win this week.
What did you see from Jacoby that maybe you already knew about from him, and then maybe something you didn't know?
Yeah, that's what I said. I think after the game, it's a good question. I don't want to discredit. I wasn't. How do I say it? I knew. Obviously he's stepping up into a different role. As the backup now starting. Because of an injury, and the game's not too big for him. But I've been with him for a year. And I've seen that happen, and through the course of his career, I knew that's how it was kind of going to be. There's no panic in his game. He prepares to be the starter every week, and he went out and played well.
How do you explain, not just in this game, but overall, the defensive struggles in the fourth quarter? Because you've been one of the best in the league for 3 quarters, and then it seems to change in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, this one kicked out a little bit different. The couple games in the past here were more like 2-minute mechanics, as I would say it. This one was kind of straight up mixed downs, and the one drive, I don't think we even got it to 3rd down, or there maybe was 1 3rd down. The last touchdown they put on the board, we got to do a better job there, and we looked at it today, and are we putting them in the right spots, and, what do we need to do? We're all trying to find solutions together, because you got to keep points off the board there, and I didn't think, honestly think we took a step back in run game fundamentals all collectively, and that's been up to par in my mind, up until this last one, and give them credit. They got a good O-line and a really good back and a good scheme. But we gotta play better than that. There's no doubt.
Was there anything about Jacoby's performance that kind of opened your eyes to maybe something you could do with Kyler whenever he comes back, or are they 2 different quarterbacks? You know what I mean? I just wonder why the offense looked so different with Jacoby at times on Sunday.
Well, I think too. It's a good question. That defense plays a little different than all the other games, and Green Bay is going to play different than them, so that lends its hand. But obviously we tailored a little bit the scheme going into this week with the possibility of Jacoby starting, I would say. So we kind of had that up. I thought it was a good job by Drew and his staff to make sure that we're putting Jacoby. It's just like all our guys, make sure that we're putting Jacoby in spots that, he does well with. And I thought we did that.
Do you think it's better to just have Kyler sit out with the bye week coming up a week after this to let him have a couple weeks rest at this point?
No, when he's out there and ready to play, he'll play.
Overall, the pass rush through 6 weeks, how do you kind of assess that?
I don't know what the stats show, but I thought we had our best day rushing yesterday, truthfully. Four-man rush mechanics, I thought we were really good yesterday. Where we weren't so good is on the back end. Just as, are we taking away the first look? Are we on the right people? Are we closing windows? Are we winning leverage like that? That was the epitome of, because we've probably had more production in games before that, right? And you're like, oh, we're rushing really good, and then we didn't rush good yesterday. I disagree. I thought we rushed really good yesterday. We weren't, on point with the rush and coverage go together. There was many plays in that game where you saw that. So we got to make sure all 11 are doing the right thing.
Is that, it sounds like you're talking about yesterday, the run defense, which has been good for much of the season, wasn't quite as good at the pass rush, but is it just a matter of it hasn't quite all clicked for every
Put it all together. We better, or we're not going to win. Got to put it all together. All three phases, 60 minutes, run, pass game, red zone, backed up, 2 minute, 4 minute. Short yardage, all the things that go into the game. But I know, Tyler, it's funny because I smirk too, but you really don't. I know. You really don't know where it's going to, matriculate for a game. And that's why you got to be on the details of everything, but that's the ball, you never know when that's going to show up. I thought we did a good job hunting it. The one we take the ball away. Then when we give it back, unfortunate, kind of a bad luck play, whatever. We looked at that, how can we avoid that one? But it all matters. It all counts. And you got to do it well.
Does that kind of maybe explain some of the fourth quarter stuff? If it's one thing going different wrong every game, the opponent maybe figures that out as the game goes on. Oh, they're struggling with their run defense today.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just being on the details and making sure that's making sure that we control what we control, from an operations standpoint, from a, whatever phase it is, making sure we're playing the right way and doing the right things. And when they make plays, they make plays. But when it's self-inflicted, I think that's one of the frustrating things on a Monday when they come in and see that. And that also goes into, we're doing a lot of good things, hence why we're not getting blown out. You know what I mean? But to win games that we've been in these close games now, to win them, we got to do it a little bit better than we've been doing it all three phases. That's what we got our eyes set on. That's what we need to improve.
How do you feel Pat did with filling in for Blake?
I thought he did well. Yeah, that was a tough spot, coming into a new team, off the street and doing a good job. Blake, he woke up, I think on Thursday and did some tests, and Patio came in and did a good job for us.
Coach, we all know about injuries, offense, defense, but how much do injuries affect special teams play?
Well, I don't understand what you mean, Craig.
Just when guys go down and somebody has to move up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I understand now. You got to have guys ready to go at different spots. It's just like we're talking about the offense with that, Zach. It's special teams too, because there's a trickle-down effect to everything, and now guys are thrust into certain roles on offense, and Jeff has to make it work with other guys defensively, what we're doing, and you only got so many jerseys on game day. So I think our guys, Jeff and Sam, have done a good job with those guys, cross-training them for different spots, things like that. I thought we made some big plays in the kicking game yesterday, that coming out of half, we kind of at halftime, it was like offense has put some points on the board. It starts with a 40-yard return by Dortch, you know what I mean? That was well blocked. He made a play. We go down and score there, We've had some explosives in the kicking game, how we, all the things that go into that. You know, Keaton makes the unbelievable play. It's a 63-yard net, you know, with the penalty, you know. So they're doing a good job with that.
I know injuries are part of the game, and everybody understands that, but you guys have had a situation now where in a short amount of time, your guys have had to watch 3 of their teammates have to be carted off in like serious situations. Do you ever have to address that part of it? I mean, if it happens once in a while, I get it, but like when it keeps happening, do you worry about that taking a toll?
No, we talk about it, you know what I mean? But you can talk about it all you want. You can train them psychologically all you want. That you know, they're humans too. You know, and you gotta move on. I don't want to discredit like what happened obviously to Trav, because that's a scary thing for anybody. You don't want to see it happen to anybody. But you do got to play a football game, you know what I mean? So just got to kind of focus in, lock back in. I know they felt bad and they're concerned for them, which we all are. Everybody was in that stadium. But then you got a job to do.
How difficult is it to, when you're not getting the results that you want, to not make major changes and just kind of stick with what you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, we've tweaked some things, you know. It's not difficult. I'll be honest with you. You double down on what you know is true. You take in the facts. These are the facts. You take emotion out of it, and you know, solve problems. You know, you got to find solutions. So you got to have a steady mind to do that. But I think our guys are trained that way. Our coaches are. And if you want to turn it around with a lot of ball left here, we're, you know, mid-October, a lot of ball left, you got to find solutions and you got to play better. So it's a good question, but you don't. You double down on what you know to be true and get better at your process.
You touched on the pick. Was that just a matter of Zay being bumped off his route there?
Yeah, a little bit.